What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to another episode of The Lawyer You Know. And today we're hitting yet another day, another week of the Karen Reed trial. And to me, my perception of how the witnesses went today is we saw a great witness for the defense, a bad witness for the defense, and something in the middle. What is the strategy? Is it working? What are you learning from each witness? What is the defense highlighting and showing you? What do they want you to focus on? I can't wait to hear what you thought of these witnesses, where we may see some things the same. I guarantee we're going to see some things differently, which makes it interesting to me. Let's talk. Let's talk it through. Let's see what we're discussing. If we're back there in the jury room together, what did you get from this witness? And I'll tell you what I got. We're going to have a good time today. We're going to talk about all the difficult parts of being a lawyer at trial and being a juror in a trial like this. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Let's get to it. So first and foremost, I value your time and I apologize for being 15 minutes late. We came home, literally just got home from vacation this afternoon, and I walk into the pool house, which is where my office is and where I am right now. And the AC is broken in June in the summer in Florida, which is not great. And as you can imagine, becomes a hot box very quickly. So I had to climb up into the attic to suck all the water out of the pan, clear out the drain, whatever pipe that is. And that's why I was late. And if you see anything glistening off me, no, it is not. I just got out of the shower or pool or anything fun. It is the sweat from the attic. My wife is a queen, jumped in, helped me. We were able to get it all fixed. Air is on now. It's still a little warm in here, but it should be cooling off as we go. And yes, thank you guys so much. 500,000 subscribers, which is insane. It's crazy. We'll talk about it more on another video. There's so much to get to today, and I don't want to waste your time talking about me or the channel, but I appreciate you guys so much for subscribing and continuing to show up, hang out, ask your questions, and give your comments. I love it. Love doing this. It's a lot of fun for me. And I really appreciate everybody that's here. So we went out last week not knowing if Judge Canoni was going to allow in the Proctor texts. I thought she should. I thought they provided enough. I still would call Proctor myself, but it should be the decision of the defense. They shouldn't be forced to call Proctor to get into these text messages. Hank Brennan disagreed, basically baiting them, wanting them to have to call Proctor. And we started the day with Judge Canoni's decision. Let's take a listen to it together.
Mr. Brennan, I'm letting the text messages in over the Commonwealth's objection. I find that they're properly authenticated and that they do go to...
Can I turn the fan off?
Yes, can we turn them? Thank you. So I do find that they're properly authenticated, and I find that they come in as they go to the state of mind of Trooper Proctor, specifically as that goes to...
And by the way, everybody was in the pool house. That's why the lights all just went off. Okay. Now they're back on because they walked out and just hit all the lights, but it's okay. We're here. There might be some crazy stuff going on in the background today.
Potentially reflecting any bias or omissions in the police investigation. So I'll give a limiting instruction at the time they can come in. I understand that what was still remaining with disagreement are in orange. So I've got ruling.
So we're not going to listen to the disagreement in text. A very good decision for the defense. Very, very good and important decision. And one that Judge Canoni's hand was not forced. I think it was the right decision, like I said. But I don't think this was the end all be all. And there were other ways they could potentially get into these text messages. So while I think it's the right decision, I think it does show, she's trying to weigh it. Some of her decisions have been horrible. I think this was a good one. I think this was a good decision by Judge Canoni. So then we get into the second witness for the defense, which we already heard from a little bit. Diamantis, the friend of Proctor, in this group chat with Proctor, with a bunch of his high school friends, 9 people from Canton, grew up together, high school together. 3 of them have nicknames. Chip and Bear are 2 of the nicknames for Michael Proctor. And at the end, I wrote, at least he didn't make this poor guy read Proctor's texts. That's literally what my note was at the end of the direct examination. Little did I know what Hank Brennan had planned. He comes in, have we met? He loves to ask witnesses that. He says, there's 38,000 texts. You didn't really respond or ratify. You weren't in this conversation at all. Did you know that Proctor was fired for those texts? Objection sidebar. Then he gets to get into it, which I thought was interesting. This is obviously part of Brennan's plan with this witness to get into the fact that Proctor was fired for these texts. And there's a couple different strategic decisions or reasons I can think of why Brennan would want to do that. Number one, he wants to obviously take the sting away from these texts. Number two, he wants it to look like, which in my opinion is just not true, that the police department did the right thing and they fired Proctor when he screwed this up. But that's not really true. It was continuous pressure, public outpouring, and then eventually they did the right thing. But he wants to make it look like, oh, look, Proctor sent these texts. That's why he got fired. Also, number three, he wants to be clear. Proctor was fired for these texts, not for planting evidence, not for lying, not for anything else, which is, again, partially true because he was also fired for bias in this investigation against Karen Reed. So Proctor wants to use this witness to try and help the Proctor situation. Let's take a listen to how it came out.
Sir, do you know if Mr. Proctor was fired from the Massachusetts State Police?
I do.
Did he tell you why?
It was in connection to this case. I believe it was based on his text messages that were sent to us.
Based on these comments that are in exhibit?
Correct.
To me, it feels like hearsay, but the defense wants it to come in. So, I mean, they want it to come in that he's fired. So if they're going to have other people comment on it, it seems like there's a couple things. And I'll just tell you, this is very different with Hank Brennan than Lally. Lally played it like a normal prosecutor would, usually close to the vest, try to keep everything out you can, don't take a lot of risks, present the evidence to the jury, try to make a timeline, try to build a picture for them, and let them try to convict this defendant. Brennan is taking big swings. He's putting in risky evidence. He's keeping out things and taking risks that way. He's putting in the defense expert's report. That's a risk. That's unusual. He wants to talk. He's going to put in these text messages. He wants to talk about why Proctor was terminated. He's taking some risks on what he is presenting and what he's not presenting, and only time will tell how it all turns out. You can love it or you can hate it. And there are some that I've hated, and there's some today that I thought he did really well with. We'll see. You guys let me know what you think he's done well, what you think what he's not done well.
Did you at any time ever defend or endorse these comments?
I did not.
Did you ever encourage him in his comments?
I did not.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm handing you exhibit 209.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to jump ahead a little bit more. I don't really know how much you guys want to hear about these text messages, but I do think let's play some of them and see how Brennan was able to pacify these text messages.
On the page ending bottom right, 29.
Yes.
Somebody in the group asked another question.
Yes.
What do they say?
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
If you could just speak up just a little so it's hard to hear with the fan on, not your
Sure.
fault.
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
How does Mr. Proctor respond?
This one is a nightmare. Forget about the kids. That's awful.
And then I'd like you to go down to Mr. Proctor's next comment.
But all the powers that be want answer ASAP.
What does one of the group respond with?
Gotcha.
Mr. Proctor?
Couldn't open it either.
Do you know what he was talking about when he said he couldn't open it?
I'm guessing the Facebook link.
I'd like you to turn forward to bottom right, 3-1. Do you see what that is?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
John O'Keefe's Facebook page.
What does it tell us about John O'Keefe?
He went to Braintree High School, studied criminal justice at Northeastern, joined Facebook in 2008.
Turn the page, please.
So one of the things I thought he did by introducing these text messages, actually two things. Number one, what a great guy John O'Keefe is again. Anytime you have the opportunity to do that, he does. But also read a lot of text messages, right? Then the highlighted bad ones, sift in there. You can't do anything about them if you're Brennan. They're going to come out. They're going to be bad. There's no way he's going to turn this guy into a good witness. There's no way he's going to turn this situation into a positive one with Proctor. But somebody did say, seems like Brennan's admitting Proctor's a shady dude. I think Brennan is perfectly fine to throw Proctor under the bus, kick him while he's down there, and say, but he didn't plant any evidence. He's a bad guy, and we fired him because of it, because we're so good and we have the moral high ground. He's really pushing the moral high ground from the Commonwealth and law enforcement. And I think that's what he's going to say he's doing with Proctor. I don't understand how a jury would believe that, but juries have done things that I don't understand in the past. I mean, to me, how you can take anything but the worst of the worst from the whole Proctor situation is beyond me. Chris K. I told Peter if he hit 500K by Monday, I would publicly denounce the Know Your Lawyer guy and state unequivocally that Peter Tragos is the best lawyer on YouTube. Seriously, though, congratulations to you and your whole team. We viewers are extremely proud. It's really a cool thing. And without you guys being here and telling your friends to come show up and your moms and your husbands and, whoever is in your life that you're like, oh, you're watching this case, come check it out. We wouldn't be here. So I appreciate you guys. I really appreciate the comments. And I know there's going to be some where we disagree. Hang with me. Let's just talk through it, guys. It's okay. We can do it. We should know by now, especially the people that come and hang out in every chat. You should know by now, this is a channel you can disagree with. We can see things completely differently. And watching it again and pausing it and discussing it, sometimes we can learn more, change our views, alter how we see things. And that's totally fine too. More information can make you change your position on things. Thank you, Chris, for being here, for hanging out. And let's keep listening here to these text messages.
The first line from Bird, and I'll note this is January 29, 2022 at 10:56:39 p.m. Did I read that accurately?
Yes.
And what does the person say?
I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit.
And could you read Mr. Proctor's 2 responses?
Nope. Homeowner is a Boston cop too.
There's no way you can fix that text message, right? And I feel like I'm a little desensitized to these text messages, not texts, these text messages, because I've heard them so many times and I knew they were coming. But these are one of those things you have to pause and be like, we are not this jury. The people that watch trial 1, you are not this jury. Hearing these text messages for the first time has to hit you like a ton of bricks. It has to. I find myself not liking anything the Commonwealth does. Maybe I'm too biased. I get it. And that's okay. At least you can kind of see it and try to judge it from the other scenario. But I can also understand with all the crap we know from the background of how people can be like, I just hate the Commonwealth. I don't like these cops here that are coming to testify. I just don't like them. That's fine. I'm trying to view it from a different lens, but I understand if you're not, and that's still okay. I still want to hear what you have to say about it.
You can turn to the next page, ending on 33. This is January 29, 2022 at 10:57:21 p.m. Could you read Mr. Proctor's 2 comments?
She waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital.
And one of the group asks a question.
She waffled him in quotation marks.
And how does he respond?
He was banged up.
Somebody in the group asks another question. What do they ask?
I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up?
And Mr. Proctor's response?
Nope.
Turn to the next page, ending in 34.
And this was all immediate. Now, here's what else I'll say. I think this would have been better if the defense would have found a way to introduce them first themselves. They could have highlighted the really bad ones. They could have only read the really bad ones. Let Brennan come try to add context later. They didn't do that. This witness, again, is kind of like mid, obviously great for the defense because of Proctor's texts. But I still am a little baffled at the way the defense decided to handle the Proctor text situation. Even if you weren't going to have Proctor read them, like have somebody read them to get into it, to really ask the questions and highlight the texts you wanted to. I've got to believe they're going to do that at some point. It can't just be in closing argument, right? Like you want this jury to hear these texts as many times as possible. If Brennan wants to ask them here, fine. Maybe they're going to ask him through another witness. I don't know. But to me, to hear Proctor read them and try to spell out words that he's embarrassed he said and be like, no, buddy, you have to read the word you wrote. You can't say C word. You can't spell a word. You can't say the F word. This is what you said. Now eat it. Man, was that effective last time. Man, did that make you want to just really give him what he deserved. And that effect has not come through this trial yet to me. Maybe it has to you. And if it has, let me know. That was just kind of my view of why this witness was not as good as it could have. This witness is fine, right? It's not his fault. This evidence, I should say, was not as impactful as I think it could have been under a different presentation. I think there is more coming from this defense. And you got to remember, this is the second witness. So we're thinking, how is the defense going to come out here?
This is at around 10:58:06 p.m., running through 10:59 p.m. Another question from the group. What did they ask?
So the owner of the house was a woman cop that beat him.
And Mr. Proctor's 2 responses?
That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedic. Then I saw the guy.
So again, the defense is going to pause on that and say, you thought it was a fight after talking to the Canton paramedic because it looked like a fight. Did the jury pick up on it? Now, we all know it's coming. We've heard the arguments before. We've heard them 50 times. We've paused them. We've done it like we just did here. The jury hasn't. So are they picking up on all of these very important nuggets coming out? Hi, Angela.
One of the group asks further down, what does Sir, if you could either speak much louder or bring the microphone closer. We have a couple fans back here. It's just difficult to hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's not your fault. If we can keep our voice up. So one of the group asks, what does, quote, she waffled him, quote, end quote, mean? And then asks, what's the story? Does Mr. Proctor return?
He does.
What does he say?
She hit him with her car.
Turn to the next page, please, ending in 3-5.
The Commonwealth may think that has some positive effect. I think that has literally no positive effect. Like, obviously, we know Proctor is going to say that.
These texts are from 10:59:13 p.m. to 11:08 p.m. The person by the name of Bird asks a question. What does he ask? What does he say?
Okay, that's fucked up.
How does Mr. Proctor respond?
Intentional or not?
And somebody in the group again?
Gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him.
Mr. Proctor's 2 responses.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
And the next one?
Admissions, right? Admissions.
They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
What does the friend say?
What's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved.
What does Mr. Proctor say?
Biffed him.
Turn to the next page, ending in 3-6. These run from January 29, 2022, 11 p.m. and 11 seconds to January 29, 2022, 11 p.m., 39 seconds. The first comment by somebody in the group.
The BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own?
And then if you could look where there's a comment from Whitey at 11 p.m., 27 seconds.
Liz has got the blueprint.
Liz has got the blueprint. Do you know who Liz is?
No.
Okay. And what's the next comment by Mr. Proctor?
Nah, Cat. It's the total opposite. They have to rescue themselves.
What it's
Recuse themselves, excuse me.
Recuse themselves?
Yes.
And then comment by somebody in the group?
Laughed at. Liz has got the blueprint.
On the next page, Mr. Proctor's comment.
Same with Canton.
At January 29, 2022, 11:02 p.m. and 15 seconds, there's a comment from one person in the group, number ending in 5051. Could you read that?
But I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops.
Next comment by Bird.
Something stinks.
And the comment by Mr. Proctor.
Yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl.
And the beginning of the next sentence is gotta be. And finally, the last comment on that page.
She hot at least.
Is that the question mark?
Yes.
Turn the page, please. Ending in 3-8. These messages begin at 11:05:57 p.m., run through 11:06:39 p.m. on January 29, 2022. Does it begin with comments from Mr. Proctor?
It does.
Could you read all of them, please?
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to?
He's like, come on, bro. Like, seriously, I'm the one that has to read these? And they go to a sidebar, and somebody had a good question here. So somebody pointed out to me, maybe it was you, Boston Breezy, I can't remember, that whenever I say pita, I say it like Peter Pan, basically. But people are saying it's like a Boston pita. I don't know, how would you say it in Boston pita? Why did Hank Brennan read the text versus the defense? The text felt so much less intense from the Commonwealth than when AJ grilled Proctor last trial. I agree with you. And this is something that happened at this sidebar right here. They made an agreement. Maybe some mercy from the defense, because it's like, it is not these guys' words. But I really think the defense are going to get these text messages out some other way. I don't know how, but there was an agreement. They go to sidebar. Brennan comes back, and he's the one that's going to read the text messages. And this witness is just going to say, yes, that's what they say.
On January 29, 2022, 11 p.m., 5 minutes, 57 seconds. And this page ends at 11 p.m., 6 minutes, 39 seconds on January 29, 2022, ending in numbers 3-8. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Mr. Proctor says, from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job, and then uses the C word to describe. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
He then says, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. Are those the words that he wrote?
Those are the words.
And there's a response at the bottom from one member in the group stating, "Oh, she's skating."
Yes.
Let's turn the page, ending in 3-9. These begin on January 29th, 2022, 11:06 p.m., 55 seconds. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Proctor responds, "Zero chance she skated. She's effed. She's fucked."
Yes,
Is that what he said?
it is.
And then one person in the group says, "No ass bitch."
Yes,
Accurate?
that's accurate.
Mr. Proctor, there's a response, laughed at, quote, "No ass bitch."
Yes.
You can turn to a page that ends in 4-3. You ready?
Yes.
Somebody in the group says, "Is that chick a smoke?" And then the same person follows up with a question mark. Accurate?
Accurate.
Mr. Proctor responds, EH,
Yes.
nutbag, as my chief would say.
Yes.
She's got a leaky balloon knot,
Yes.
leaks poo.
Yes.
Are those the words of Mr. Proctor?
They are.
Did I read those accurately?
You did.
And then
Some of the most disgusting, right? But a lot of people have the same question. Not reading the text verbatim couldn't have been objected against by the defense. I mean, it kind of downplayed the severity of Proctor's bias. No, absolutely. Did not come in as bad as it did the first. I really think, and yeah, M. Medina said he took the steam away. I agree. Still terrible. Absolutely. And then he asked, did he plant evidence, right? That's what's coming up. I think, listen, this is one of those things where it's like, this is like the worst possible evidence you can have as a prosecutor, but Brennan did as good of a job trying to take this thing out of it as he possibly could, not calling Proctor in direct and letting him get crucified on cross. And the defense was not the first to ask these questions. Brennan did.
a person in the group says, "What are you guzzling on?" And this is on, well, let me take a step back to be more clear. The comments I just read, those weren't on January 29th. Those were on February 2nd, 2022.
Correct.
And the time is 12:50 p.m. 12:50 and 5 seconds p.m. begin the
Oh,
page.
yes, yes, beginning of the page, yes.
These are different in time than the ones we read before, the series of text messages.
Correct.
Okay. And then at the bottom, one of the members of the group says, "What are you guzzling on?"
Correct.
And that's still February 2nd, 2022. And that's at 1:51:33 p.m.
Yes.
And then if you can turn to page that ends on with numbers 44.
Yes.
And this is on February 2nd, 2022, 1:52:24. Mr. Proctor says, "Nothing, writing a warrant."
That's accurate.
There are no further text messages?
From Mr. Proctor?
Yes, or anybody in this group that you have as part of this exhibit?
That was not the last comment.
Okay, let me look. Okay. Is there another YouTube video?
There is.
You were not part of any of these conversations with Mr. Proctor,
No,
but you're still friends with him?
I am.
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested that he planted evidence in this case or any other case?
No,
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested framing a defendant, including this defendant?
absolutely not.
In all your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested tampering with evidence in this case or in any other case?
No, absolutely not.
And Mr. Proctor was fired?
He was.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
He's like, thank God. And so Brennan sits down. Yannetti gets up and he says, well, didn't Proctor share this information before it was public? And he's like, I'm not really sure. And then Yannetti wants to get into the other reasons for his firing. Tanya said, disagree. Texts show he believes she was guilty. And I think Tanya's saying that's a good thing for the Commonwealth. And we're going to get some of this today where there are going to be certain people, and maybe it's jurors at this point, that see everything as good for the defense and bad for the Commonwealth. Some people that see everything, even these text messages, somehow as good for the Commonwealth and bad for the defense. And jurors get encamped like that sometimes, especially in long trials like this. They really can.
You and anybody on the chat who cared to read them, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked questions about why Michael Proctor was fired, and I believe you answered in a shorthand way for these text messages. Were you aware he was fired for being biased?
I'm not aware of that.
Objection.
This witness was a little annoying, and maybe it's just watching it second time through. It's like, oh, yeah. I knew he was fired because of this text. I knew X, Y, and Z. Is like, but you didn't know he was fired because he was biased? Like, so clearly Proctor is just filtering whatever he wants to say to you. It's not actually, this guy doesn't actually know anything, yet he was able to testify that Proctor was fired because of these text messages. To me, it's a little annoying. It really just depends. Is the jury looking at this like, of course, everybody for the Commonwealth is going to be on their side, but these are now defense witnesses they're calling. And when it comes to Dever, that's going to be incredibly important with how I view it. If the Commonwealth would have called her, to me, it would have been a completely different story.
Were you aware that he was fired for revealing confidential information about an investigation?
I was not aware of that.
And were you aware that he was also fired for conduct unbecoming a state trooper and a lead investigator in this case?
I was not aware of that.
And that was a mistake by Brennan. To bring in, well, I don't know. It was a risk-reward decision by Brennan, I should say. To bring in that he was just fired for these text messages, opened the door, because he then objected to it. The judge is like, no, you can ask this. For Yannetti to get into all these other reasons Proctor was fired, that sound really bad. If the lead investigator is, hold on a second. The lead investigator is fired for these reasons. That is really, really bad.
I have no further questions.
All right, now, Brennan,
You're
another cross.
Not aware that he was fired for conduct unbecoming because of these text messages?
You're not aware that he was fired for conduct unbecoming because of these text messages? It's like, Brennan, there he is, you know.
My understanding was
The reason it's improper is not because it's leading, because you're allowed to lead on cross. What you're not allowed to do is ask a witness a question you know he does not know the answer to, and he's already said he doesn't know the answer to that question. And he still asks it to get the question.
was due to the text messages. I don't know the other details of the situation.
Do you know he was not fired for any accusations of planting or tampering with evidence?
I do not know that.
Do you know that he was not fired for doing anything to compromise the integrity of the evidence in this investigation?
I do not know that.
All right. So, sir, I am going to let you step down. And then, folks, I have an instruction for you that I should have read at the time that.
So just like she gave Jackson the last word on some crosses, she's giving Brennan the last word sometimes on some of these crosses. I think she's been pretty even-handed. She's basically let every single lawyer come up and ask one more question if they want to ask one more question, whether it's re-cross, redirect, redirect, you know, whatever it is. I feel like she has allowed all the lawyers the opportunity, and they've been pushing for it because they're all very strong personality lawyers that are handling the majority of this case. Then we get to Dever, okay? Boston PD, former Canton PD, worked on the case, no report, no interview by anybody. A separate law enforcement agency interviewed her on August 23rd, August of 23. To me, if the jury is able to keep all this straight, which I think is very difficult, especially when witnesses like this come to the stand. But very similar to how they set up the interview with a separate law enforcement agency to Jen McCabe. So is the jury putting that together, that this is the same law enforcement agency that Dever will name specifically who that was later in her testimony? She took a call, body in the snow. She knew Higgins, Albert, and Berkowitz. And I said, man, she's very argumentative. And she keeps trying to say the media, you know, she's learning all this stuff in the media because she knows she's not going to be able to testify to it if she's learning about it in the media. She did not testify the first trial, so I did not know what she was going to come and testify about. And then we start to find out.
All right. There were cameras in the Sally port.
By the way, that's after she went back and forth with Jackson 10 times about, well, I know there's cameras in Sally Port only because the media put those videos out there. It's like, so you're a cop that worked there? And she's like, well, we took prisoners there, so I assume there are. He's like, so you don't know? And after all this, she's like, fine, yes, there are cameras in the Sally Port. So it was very obvious. I actually think she could have been declared a hostile witness pretty easily. We didn't get there, at least unless they did it at sidebar. We didn't get there on the record publicly. But I think Jackson should have been able to lead her personally. It was very obvious that she crossed into that line. By the way, let me set the stage for some of my thoughts on her real quick. This is the third witness the defense is calling before Russell, before Lucky Laughlin, before Arca, before Wing, before all these experts they have. They decide to call her. Now, when I first thought about it, I was like, gosh, why would they call her so early in the case? Then I'm thinking, Maybe in their mind, they're sandwiching her. They had the text messages from Proctor come in, obviously good evidence for them. Even if it wasn't the home run, it could have been still good evidence for them. And they know Dr. Russell's coming up right after her. So maybe they tried to sandwich her a little bit as not that important, and they want to get a couple points out from her that they're going to get. I just thought she did equally as much harm, if not more harm than good. And when you're calling that witness, this would have been an easy witness. I would have been like, let's cross her off, guys. I really don't think we need her. That was how I looked at it. You guys can tell me as we're listening to her. I'm going to throw some of your comments up about what you thought about Ms. Dever. But you let me know what you thought was good for the defense, why you think they called her, what you think they accomplished. If you think it was bad for the defense, why? What is it about her testimony you thought was not good for the defense and would have made you potentially not call her as, again, a defense witness, which really takes the sting out of some of the stuff that's going to come from Jackson later, like the sequestration issue.
Ms. Dever, do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case,
I
so
asked you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can, no comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Do you want to be here today now?
I'm put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
It's just not true. You definitely have it. You know exactly what your connection is to this case is going to be evidenced by your meeting with the police commissioner. So these things are definitely not true. She crushes her own credibility immediately. But again, this is a defense witness that they are calling for a specific statement.
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why.
Also, I'm going to pause it a lot for her. People are asking, does Dever's comment about the FBI open the door for ARCA? It definitely sounds like the answer to that is no, because they did not follow up and dig into it. I think they should be able to put it into proper context. I don't think Judge Cannoni is. Michelle, Dever equals, don't call me Dever, another Commonwealth witness who lied to the FBI. Does this open the door to ARCA saying they were hired by the FBI? Can the defense still choose to call MP? Absolutely, they can still choose to call MP. We're going to talk about that later. But I do not think the judge is going to say this opens the door. I think it should, but you don't just blow through that door if you're a lawyer. I think it was it Rittenhouse where the prosecutor just went through and the judge was like, whoa, I told you couldn't do this. He's like, well, I thought a witness opened the door. It's like, no, you got to ask me first. Good lawyers will always ask the judge before thinking they can walk through a door the judge said was closed. And I think that's what's happening here.
Why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand.
No.
Lie.
Are you uncomfortable testifying?
No, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath.
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll rephrase it. Is there more to that oath when you raise your right hand as a witness?
Objection.
So I'm going to see it side by side for just
Sure.
All right. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Normal shift ending to support the.
Yes.
Thank you. What time about did you take over the dispatch desk that morning?
Immediately following when the 911 call came in.
Would have been 6-ish in the morning. Does that sound about right?
Sometime I would say towards the later of my shift, but it was the middle of winter and dark out. So I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6.
Understood. But it was still dark out.
Yes.
Once you took over the dispatch desk, did you stay there even past your normal shift ending to support the investigation that was ongoing?
Not to support the investigation. I was just on overtime.
Okay. So you stayed past your normal end time of your shift that day.
Yes, on overtime.
You stayed into the afternoon, correct?
I believe the shift ended at 3:45 p.m. for the Canton Police.
But you stayed past your ending shift time, correct?
Objection.
I'm sorry, I'll rephrase it. Did you stay past your ending shift time?
For my regular shift, yes, because I was on overtime on the day shift.
Did you observe anything unusual that stood out in your mind that occurred, pardon me, in the Sally Port while you were on that shift?
So we've discussed this previously. I can't make that statement on the stand because I've been provided information released by the defense that it was not a memory, that it was a distorted memory. Therefore, I can't state it because at this point it would be a lie. I cannot make that statement that you're one.
I was like, what is she talking about? Like, what? The defense is calling a witness saying this. Meanwhile, I don't know. I don't know who she is. I didn't know what she was going to testify to, right? So people have asked me literally this question before. If you said something in the past and you want to change your testimony because you think the past is untrue, how do you fix that? Is it perjury? Well, how you fix it without getting, arrested for perjury is kind of the way she does it. Still doesn't sound good. There's no real way to change something specific and not look like a liar. But the jury is hearing her say, I was mistaken before, and so I can't say that in good conscience, or it just would not be true. So there's two ways for a jury to look at that. Either, oh, she's doing the right thing. She seems like a very honorable person. Or she's lying to cover something up. What do you think a jury is going to view? This person they don't know that is a cop.
Wanting me to make on the stand because I've advised that would be a lie.
Ms. Dever, I've never asked you to make a statement one way or the other on the stand. I'm asking you an open-ended question.
Okay,
Did you,
prior
let
to
me
the
ask the
first
question. Did you observe something in the Sallyport garage on January 29th, 2022 that you found unusual, that stuck out in your mind?
given factual information that makes it so I know I did not, no.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
Do you remember being interviewed on August 9th, 2020?
Crazy, man. It's really crazy how she danced around this. Really, really crazy. Now, what does this prove? Okay. And let's read Maureen's comment here. Dever's testimony netted 0 points for the defense, not worth the time and risk. Wonder whether her statements about Higgins and Berkowitz would have landed better in the first trial. Conspiracy was defendant's argument. So this is part of my issue with her testifying. It doesn't seem like conspiracy is their main focus of this trial. It is a focus. And really, all this witness can do for the defense is prove all these cops are lying and covering up for each other, the thin blue line, okay? Number two, that Higgins and Berkowitz now were alone with the SUV, and were they busting the taillight? It also seems next to impossible that it would have been there at the time she thinks it was there, right? Like, even by the defense's own theory. So you can have alternate theories, but you got to be careful about how confusing you're making it. So yes, she clearly hates the defense. Yes, she's clearly biased against the defense. Yes, she's clearly trying to hurt the defense. But what did she really do to help their case? And there's a lot of people that think the conspiracy is proven. It's guaranteed. Locked. The jury sees the conspiracy. I don't think a lot of the jurors are going to get that far. And I can't help juror Ronnie and some other juror, even alternates, statements that we have heard and seen in different interviews. They see the defense attorneys trying to trick them or distract them or just making arguments, and it's kind of smoke and mirrors. Is that going to be confirmed here? Because some of the stuff she says that actually comes in evidence can go a long way in closing argument. Maureen, I think he should have been able to treat her as a hostile witness. I don't know if he asked to or not at sidebar. I don't know what the judge said. It didn't happen in open court.
23.
I do.
That was by a separate law enforcement agency, correct?
Yes.
2 separate law enforcement agents. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were advised during the course of that interview on August 29th of something, correct?
Can you rephrase
I'm sorry,
that?
August 9th.
So what was I advised of? Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Were you advised that lying to those officers would be a crime?
So it was a willing conversation. I've spoken with their legal team. Because of the fact I was provided factual information that showed a statement of mine was a false memory, it was not a lie. Therefore, I made it in good faith, and I retracted given information that it could not be accurate.
She's not wrong, by the way. And this is why we talk about perjury is so hard to prove, because all you have to say is like, well, I had a good faith belief, even though it was completely wrong. I had a good faith belief at the time that I made it. And that's why it can really be difficult to lock somebody in for perjury, because you can change your testimony, even as specific and as wild as this, that just does not seem true. But it'd be very difficult for a prosecutor to actually charge her and win on a perjury charge.
Sarah, did you understand my question?
Yes, I did. You threatened to charge me with perjury during our phone call prior to the first trial if I didn't lie on the stand right now.
You threatened to charge me with perjury if I didn't lie on the stand right now before the first trial. Now listen, if you're thinking and you're, fully entrenched on the defense side, those defense lawyers would never do that. How dare she accuse them? She is such a jerk. But if you're on the Commonwealth side, or if you're just a normal human being, and I can say this, I'm a defense attorney, I'm a personal injury lawyer. Most people look at us like, oh, we know that's exactly what you do. You probably ask witnesses to lie all the time. You're a snake oil salesman. You're an ambulance chaser. You're a horrible person. How could you represent these guilty people, the scum of the earth? How could you ever do that? A lot of people feel that way about defense lawyers. If one of them happens to be on this jury, she just said that's what the defense did. And it also opens the door for Hank Brennan to say, these defense lawyers are telling witnesses to lie. She also says, you created this conspiracy theory. So he's going to be able to say, she knows that these lawyers are creating these conspiracy theories. Do not let them distract you or trick you from the truth. Brennan's going to be able to argue that in closing now because it is facts in evidence. I get that people don't like her. I get that people don't like it. I get that people don't believe her. I don't believe her either. I do not find what she is saying to be credible. But that is information now coming out. And I think that's bad for the defense. I know if I was the lawyer, I'd be like, great, judge, great. But I called the witness. Like if a Commonwealth witness said that and it really wasn't true, this could be a mistrial. This could be judge. I didn't say that. She's lying on the stand saying this stuff. Commonwealth is coaching their witnesses to say, but she's a defense witness. Don't underestimate that. They are choosing to put her on the stand. Now she's a hostile witness. She could be saying things that are not true. But they put her up there. They took that risk. They knew it was a risk. If it wasn't for them, this witness would have never taken the stand. It's the way I see it. It's the way I see it. We can, again, feel free to disagree. If you think the fact that she's just not credible, thin blue line. So I saw somebody comment, the conspiracy is sealed with Dever. She proved the conspiracy. Do you think that's really where the jury is?
I'm telling you, I did not see anything. Factually, I've been provided evidence by a timeline that it is not correct.
Ms. Dever, my question was this. Were you advised that it was a crime to lie to those law enforcement agents? Yes or no?
No.
They never told you. They never admonished you that it would be a crime to lie to them?
Objection.
Sustained as to form.
Why do they need to tell her? She's a cop. Shouldn't she know that it's a crime to lie to cops?
Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Did they advise you of anything? Any consequences of lying to them?
So we had a willing conversation.
Yes or no?
I don't recall.
So we had a willing conversation.
Okay, there's your answer.
You don't recall if they advised you of anything?
No, because it
As
wasn't.
a trained law enforcement agent.
Go ahead and ask a question, but both of you only one at a time, okay?
As a trained law enforcement officer, are you aware that it's a crime to lie to certain other law enforcement agents?
When you have intent to lie, yes.
Okay. So you knew that when you spoke to these law enforcement officers, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell these law enforcement officers that you, in fact, saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sally Port with the
Objection.
SUV? May I finish my question?
He can finish this question. Go ahead.
Did you tell
And Canoni's letting him finish the question. Canoni's giving some leeway here.
those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, that you saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sally Port together and alone with the SUV for a wildly long time?
That was my recollection at the time.
So you did say that?
At the time, that is what I recollected.
Okay. Did you were maybe it was April or so of last year? Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Did you have any conversation with any other party about your potential involvement in this case?
No.
So she talked to the commissioner about it, and we're going to get into that now. And it's like, you think you have no connection, you don't know why you're here, but yet you talk to the commissioner exactly about what you're going to testify in this case?
Did you have a conversation with anybody in the commissioner's office at Boston Police Department?
Not about anything malicious.
I didn't use the word malicious. Why do you say malicious?
I love that out of Jackson. I didn't say nefarious. Why did you say nefarious? I didn't say malicious. Why did you say malicious? I love it. So here's what I think too, okay? And maybe we have a different perception of what the jury's thinking. And that could be one of our differences in how we see this witness. Because I'm thinking it's very rare for a jury to find that there is a conspiracy and a cover-up by a bunch of cops. And if you were to get there as a jury, the defense, I think, would have to focus on it and prove it to you. And I think smartly, they have focused more on reasonable doubt and a little bit less on trying to prove that conspiracy. So because they focused even less on proving the conspiracy, and the last jury that they tried more focusing on the conspiracy, they didn't prove it to them. I find it hard to believe that they think the conspiracy is sealed with Ms. Dever. And that's why I think when she's like, the commissioner is such a great leader and a great man, while some of us might not believe that or agree with it, I'm not as confident the jury is there. That's what I'm telling to you. That's why I think she was a bad witness for the defense overall, because they did not have to call her. Jackson, I think, did a great job on some of his questions, an amazing job on redirect. But overall, again, it's not a lawyer thing, right? They're great lawyers. They're great lawyers. It's just sometimes you take a risk and it doesn't pay off, and that's what I think it was with her personally. I'd love to ask them. Christy said, Jackson today said, sorry, I was a little clunky. He definitely watches you. Yeah, I don't know if he does or not, obviously, but I mean, they don't need any help from me. Okay. Like, I don't want somebody's like, oh, Peter gets into a D-measuring competition with these lawyers because he thinks he's better than them. It's like, when have I ever done anything to, like, the point of the show is to talk about it and how I view it and what I would do. Right. And lawyers, we take risks. Sometimes they're home runs. Sometimes they're not. This was one that I think was not. And I've said it for the Commonwealth at times and for the defense at times.
I had a conversation, but it was my department saying, regardless of what I need to say on the stand, they support me.
You were asked to
Yeah, no matter what, we support you. It's like, were there any winks during that meeting? That's what I would have asked. But again, what's the jury picking up? Is the jury like, oh, that's nice. She met with her boss. That was nice. He is a great leader to meet with her to prep her testimony. Like, things that are very obvious to people on the internet following this case are not obvious to the jury. I'm confident about that.
go to the commissioner's office, correct?
Yes.
How long had you been on the Boston Police Department at the time that you were invited to go up to Commissioner Michael Costa's office?
It had to have been before the first trial. So, and I know it was when the agency released information to outside people.
That's not my question.
Okay, so I don't recall.
Okay. You don't recall how long you had been on the force, generally, at the time that you were called up to the commissioner's office, on the Boston Police Department?
No.
Was it 5 years, 2 years, 2 months? Give me a ballpark.
So I've been on the department for 2 years and 2 months. I would say somewhere in the range of a year.
Okay. Did you find it unusual for would you call yourself a rookie back then?
Yes.
Did you find it unusual that a rookie police officer would be called up to the commissioner's office personally to discuss that?
It was a reflection of how good of a leader he is. It was not anything that I found unusual, given the fact he is someone who wanted to show support for his officer.
So I'm guessing all of your training class or all of your entry classes at Boston PD, they've all gone up to the commissioner's office as well?
I don't know anyone else who's been in this particular circumstance.
Do you know anybody else who's been called up to the commissioner's office at your level at the Boston Police Department?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know of any of your colleagues with your level of experience that have been called up to the commissioner's office for a specific instance?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Now,
He made his point. The answer is no, right? Rookie or not, like, how many cops get called up to the commissioner's office? If you don't know how police departments are set up, think about Batman and Commissioner Gordon, right?
when you went up to the commissioner's office, did you respond to his indication he wanted to see you up in his office?
It wasn't a direct line of contact from him.
Okay. Did you respond? Did you ultimately go? That's what I mean by respond. Did you go to his office?
He's my boss, so yes.
Okay.
That was a good point. He's my boss, so yes, you're going to do what he said, right? Brian, a lot of people have been talking about how Hank read about John's brother-in-law passing. I agree. I even felt it like Hank Brennan was just reading, and when he hit it, I don't know why they wouldn't have redacted that or agreed they weren't going to read that. I agree. That was bad.
And who else was in that office?
Me and him, the two of us.
General counsel of the Boston Police Department?
No, it's just me and him.
The conversation we had last year, did you say that general legal counsel for the Boston Police Department was also there?
Objection.
Not during that
Sustained.
conversation.
Objection.
Next question.
Sure. Was there another time that you went to the commissioner's office where general legal counsel was there?
No.
Have you ever met general legal counsel for the Boston Police Department?
Yes.
Was it in the commissioner's office?
No.
When was it?
During my conversation with the agents.
You took a lawyer with you to talk to this other law enforcement agency?
I'm going to see your type on this.
So Jackson very clearly says this other law enforcement agency, she said that was for the conversation with the agents. Okay. So she's starting to hint more and more exactly who this is, but it gets way further than a hint.
Commissioner's office. When we left off, I was asking you about the meeting at the commissioner's office. And I want to clear this up. Was general legal counsel in that office or not when you had a meeting with the commissioner, Michael Cox?
No, it was just me and the commissioner.
At some point, did the commissioner say to you that Boston Police Department, insofar as your connection to this case is concerned, Boston Police Department fully supports you?
Yes.
Did he also say, do the right thing?
That's a direct quote. So I can't recollect if he said a direct quote 2 years ago.
A year ago, when you talked to us, the defense, did you tell the defense that when you were called up to the commissioner's office, he told you two things? Commissioner Cox told you, number one, Boston Police Department supports you, and Officer Deaver, do the right thing.
So he said my name correctly. He said Dever. And
That's my mistake. Let's see, you want me to repeat the question so I get
So,
that right?
Mr. Jackson, let's go.
Don't cut off Mr. Jackson, okay? Like that's when a witness does, and some people online love doing it, right? They love to correct grammar. They love to correct when you accidentally spell a name wrong or something wrong. People do it to Brennan all the time, right? And I mean, certain times it definitely crosses a line and it happens too much. I will agree with you there. But that is like the ultimate level of thinking too much of yourself. I can't tell you how many people mispronounce my name. Can I tell you how many I've corrected? 0. Literally 0 my entire life have I ever corrected anybody saying my name wrong. Some people, out of respect or in certain situations, I get it why they say it. She is definitely doing it to be a jerk in this situation, to try and make him look bad. I don't think it came across like that. She does it again. And to me, it's just not a good look with this witness. Personally. And Brennan mispronounces like everybody's name. Some people think he does it on purpose. I don't know that he does. I definitely don't think Jackson was doing this on purpose. You corrected your dad multiple times yesterday. That's a great point, Bella. And that is my personal problem. And I try to do it to try and save him from the ridicule online. Like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about because he's calling her Cleo. Okay. So that's why I did it, trying to be a shield. But you're right. I did it. It does happen.
Go ahead and answer, please.
yes, and he said nothing with the intent of guiding me one way or the
I asked you
other.
what his intent was, madam. I asked you what he said.
Madam, like she knew his intent. He was definitely not trying to guide me. Nikki, if the defense can close the loop on Higgins and Burke being in the Sally Port together, then it was absolutely worth calling her. Are they going to be able to do that? Do you think they're going to be able to do that? My guess is no. There was that video where the short guy, do you think it was Berkowitz? He's short. They have that. They have this statement. Like, to me, that loop is wide open. It's definitely a question. It's definitely a side eye. It's definitely some jurors maybe like, but is that it?
He said to you. What were his words to you?
That he supports me.
And
Just wanted me to tell the truth up here.
his words were, do the right thing, correct?
I don't recall.
How many other times have you testified in a court of law during the course of your job?
2 dozen, 3 dozen.
And
Actually testified probably ballpark a dozen times.
in any of those other cases, has Commissioner Michael Cox called you up to his office to discuss your testimony in any of those cases? Yes or no?
That's not a yes or a no answer.
Well, yes, it actually is, Ms. Dever.
So no comments, okay? Just
You understand the question?
Yes, it is.
The question, yes. The implication,
The question is, in any of those, I'm asking you an open-ended question. In any of those cases, Officer Dever, not including this one, has Commissioner Michael Cox ordered you up to his office to discuss your testimony?
no.
Thank you.
Very simple yes or no answer, right? All right. Then we get to Brennan's cross. Never spoke to him again like they always do. He even, like, together they're talking about prior to the first trial. It's like, and eventually he starts to back off that because I think Canoni said something to them. Talked to the defense, mostly scheduling, but it was like one real convo that she had with the defense. Good faith belief that she saw them at the Sally Port. I found that interesting. Let's listen to a chunk here of the defense that I thought Brennan did a pretty good job here crossing. I said the defense crossing this witness. I think he did a really good job.
Until about an hour and a half after I left, meaning it is not
There's nothing better than crossing a witness that you know is good for you, right? I've done it a couple times. It's the best.
possible that I saw that.
When you saw this information, did you think about your memory?
So when I saw that information, it made it clear to me that there was a distortion of the timeline, and the false memory I created, I provided in good faith, but I retracted immediately, being provided evidence that it was not possible.
The false memory I created.
So I told the defense team prior to the first trial. I also contacted the agents. The agents assured me that good faith.
Not what they said, but what you thought. Not what they said to you. But
Did they threaten to put you in jail when you told them about your mistake?
No, I even spoke with the legal team, and they said that I made a comment in good faith. There was absolutely no way that I could be charged with anything of being malicious.
Before we get to your conversation with the defense team, now I wasn't there in that conversation, was I?
No.
Have you ever shared that conversation with me?
I've never shared it with anyone.
Before we get to that, you seem a bit anxious. Are you anxious?
Confused as to why I'm here, but anxious now.
Are you, have you received any negative pushback because of you sharing your memory? Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No,
Have you received any unwarranted attention from the public or media?
not to my knowledge, but I didn't go digging to find it.
When you mentioned the media sent you something, what did they send you?
So I've seen things in the media. No media has ever been directed for me to find it. It's just this case is unavoidable as a local person on the internet who sees things that get shared.
That's an interesting comment to say in front of the jury as well.
So inevitably, you were contacted by the defense.
Yes, prior to the first trial.
You mentioned that somebody had suggested you be charged with perjury.
Yes,
Who did that?
one of the male members of the defense team.
Why did they say that to you?
Objection.
Sustained.
What were you discussing when you were threatened with perjury?
They were essentially telling me what they were looking for me to say on the stand.
What were they looking for you to say?
They were looking for me to say that I saw Higgins and Berkowitz in the garage with the car.
Did you share with them that that wasn't an accurate memory?
Yes,
How did they respond?
they became very aggressive, raised their voices. And the one word that I can very definitely remember is they said that they would charge me with perjury.
What did they want you to say?
So again, is the jury like, oh, this cop is such a liar? You know, like Noel said, all these cops have the same bad behavior? Or are they like those shady defense attorneys? Who's the bad guy here? Is it the cops? Is it Karen Reed? Is it the defense attorneys? Is it Higgins? Is it Albert? Is it Brennan? Who's the bad guy to the jury? They've got to figure this out. Fingers being pointed everywhere. You tell me, okay? Let's say if you can do this, this is a different trial. Let's say you hate the defendant and some witnesses like, these defense attorneys wanted me to get on the stand and lie. They called me and they said, you better say this or we're charging you with perjury. What would you think? Would you immediately think that witness is not telling the truth? No lawyer would ever ask a witness to lie. Is that what you would think? Tell me in the chat. Honestly, I want an honest opinion here.
They wanted me to say that statement, although I knew at that point it was not an accurate statement given the timeline.
How many times were you threatened with perjury?
At least once during the phone call, but once you say it once, it was enough.
What else happened during that phone call? Tell us the tenor of it. Tell us the content of it.
That was essentially the thing I remember most because I understood that was what they wanted me to provide for the trial. I was never called for the first trial. Therefore, I'm not exactly sure what else there is for me to say when the one thing that they wanted on the stand, it is factually not correct and cannot be provided.
When they threatened you to charge with perjury, tell us what your state of mind was. Your demeanor.
Disappointment that legal counsel would go that route with someone who is from a factual timeline saying something is incorrect. There was no retracting based on emotion. It was very clear, given the timeline, it could not be correct.
Now you work for the Boston Police Department.
Yes,
And by the way, when you were with Canton, did you ever talk to anybody about looting or planting evidence or doing anything like that?
no, and this conspiracy theory came out a year and a half later. I was gone.
Did anybody from Canton ever try to suggest to you you shouldn't say something to help the hurt side of the case?
No, because I was never spoken to until far after I left.
Did you ever see anybody in this case or any time you were with Canton doing something improper and tampering with evidence?
Not in this case or any case.
If you had, would you have reported it?
Yes,
Sustained.
Move to strike.
I'll strike that, ladies and gentlemen.
So you transferred to the Boston Police Department. Is anybody
All right, so that was the end of the cross that I wanted to play. Okay, then this is when she says, so then Jackson, like, And again, I think some of Jackson's best redirects are when he comes out firing and it's when it was a good cross, right? Like, I really think that's some of his best work when he's like, that was bad. I need to fix it. And I thought this was as good as the redirect could have gone after that cross and all the information that came out with this witness.
Pursues it in a court setting.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge anybody with a crime?
So you can seek out reporting someone for it.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge someone with a crime, ma'am?
Personally, no.
Right.
Like, because it can't happen, ma'am. That's why. And more on that when we get to Dr. Russell about how I would play it strategically as the defense on redirect. If I'm Alessi, I've got some ideas. Because right there, Jackson's like, and it's all building off each other, right? What's the jury? Somebody said the jury's not even going to remember Dever. That could be true. That could be true. But I would continue to build on it. And I think there's some ways they can do that with what the defense is bringing out on cross of Dr. Russell. We'll wait till we get there.
Fact of the matter is, nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did. Yes.
That's
I contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You have a report?
I have an email conversation where I sent the 2 questions I had. She responded, I will pass these along. I was contacted by their legal team. They reassured me perjury was not applicable because I made a statement in good faith. Upon further information, I retracted it, corrected it.
I find that really hard to believe that the FBI's legal team told her perjury is off the table. Like, really? It's very unusual for that to happen.
Made it clear that I could no longer say it because I knew that it was not a clear reflection of the events that took place.
That's a mouthful.
Yes.
My question is, do you have a report from the FBI saying that you
That's a mouthful. Sounds like a no, but
reported that someone on the Karen Reed defense team threatened to charge you, your words, with perjury? You have a
No.
report to that effect?
No.
No. Your job as a police officer is to be objective, isn't it?
Yes.
You know that, correct?
Yes.
You feel like you're being unbiased.
Yes.
Let's
oh,
your testimony here today in front of these.
when he's like, do you think you're being fair? Do you think you're being biased today? All right. We've got a lot to get to today. Does not surprise me at all. To me, this was an important day to see how the defense is going to have to bob and weave throughout this case, how they're going to have to respond to things that don't go perfectly. Bob said, hi, Peter. Congrats on 500K. Love it. What changes if AJ could have treated her as a hostile witness? He could ask leading questions. But we're at the hour mark. We still have a while to go. So everybody hit that like button. Everybody settle in. We've got a lot of questions to answer. I want to get through this witness. Then I'm going to answer a ton of questions. Then we're going to get to Dr. Russell.
Yours?
I'm telling the truth.
You think you're being fair to both sides?
All I have to do is tell the truth. If it's not perceived to be fair, that's someone else's opinion.
Let's talk about that truth for a second. What you told those law enforcement agents
Now he gets into her entire statement, which again, A+.
on August 9th, 2023 was, quote, you recalled seeing Higgins at the station later that day on Saturday. Dever thought it was also weird that Higgins and Chief Kenny Berkowitz were by themselves in the sally port of the police department, by themselves while Karen Reed's car was parked inside. Higgins was a witness and present at the gathering where O'Keefe was found dead outside, and then he was in the presence of important evidence.
He was a witness at the gathering. I thought everybody was like, nobody inside was a witness. Nobody inside saw John O'Keefe. How would they know anything? How would they have anything to add to this?
Sitting at dispatch by yourself and saw on the camera outside of the sally port when they walked in.
Objection to the entire reading.
So beyond the scope, so you have to keep it.
There's more to the statement, Your Honor. Do you remember making that statement to the officers?
My recollection of the time was that. So yes.
Okay, great.
Great. She actually answered a question.
Did you go on to say, speaking of being truthful, did you go on to say,
I'm objecting.
All right. So you have to ask differently, but I need to see you for a minute with this and bring that with you, please.
Another sidebar. There was a ton of sidebars with these witnesses. And I think it's going to happen more with the defense if these witnesses really are fighting with them.
may I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Also, Dever, did you go on to say in that interview, quote, you never saw them leave, them being Brian Higgins and Chief Ken Berkowitz. You never saw them leave, but you recalled thinking to yourself that they were in the sally port for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection of the time.
Okay.
So yes.
Have you ever heard of Higgins and Chief Ken Berkowitz. You never saw them leave, but you recalled thinking to yourself that they were in the Sallyport for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection at the time.
Okay.
So yes,
It's really good. It's a really good job by Jackson. I still don't think this witness was worth calling at all, but a really good redirect to try and get the jury to see, all right, at some point she said that. At some point she said that. Why is she not saying that anymore? And then building upon the context.
have you ever heard of, by the way, you indicated under questioning by Mr. Brennan that you knew what they wanted from me, meaning the defense, what they wanted from me. You
yes,
understand that?
yes.
You remember on that phone call that we read directly from the exact same report that I just read from? You remember that?
And I told you the same thing then.
That's not
Yes.
my question.
Objection.
Sustained.
My question is, just answer my question, Officer Dever. Did we
Just answer my question, Officer Dever. Okay, so we'll listen to this, and this is where she snaps back again.
the exact same report that I just read from? You remember that?
And I told you the same thing then.
That's not
Yes.
my question.
Objection.
Sustained.
My question is, just answer my question, Officer Dever. Did we read to you, where you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like you can't remember my name. I don't remember.
I can remember your name, Ms. Dever.
Okay, so the answer is I don't remember. No
The answer is a little
comments.
more than that, Judge. I think we all.
All right, so no comments, just questions, please.
That doesn't look good, right? And I think Jackson is like, okay, is that all you got? Basically, like when somebody corrects my spelling or grammar, it's like, cool, that tells me everything I need to know about your response, right? And that should tell Jackson everything he needs to know about her response. Is that it, or was there more? A little bit more.
Do you recall us telling you that we were looking for the truth about your
Objection.
comments?
I'm going to allow it.
That we were looking for the truth.
Which I gave you. Yes.
Did you also say on that phone call something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one because I'm changing my
All
testimony?
right, so I got a lot of comments like this today. Good night. We've got a lot of stuff starred here. Ashley, I saw you say, I thought I started, but I guess I didn't, and I'm losing it in my barrage of comments here. She said she's going to tear the defense a new one if they call her. That is not how I heard it, and just listening to it again, she said to the defense, I know you, the defense attorneys, are going to tear me a new one if I change my story. She said it to them that she's going to get a new one torn. Other people were saying, look how biased she is. She said, if you call me, I'm going to tear you a new one. That's not what she said. And she's right. She deserves to get torn a new one if you change your statement. Thank you, Sabertooth, for gifting 20 memberships.
We were looking for the truth.
Which I gave you. Yes.
Did you also say on that phone call something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one because I'm changing my testimony?
Changing. No. But you're trying to do that.
Did you say, I know you're going to tear me a new one?
What you're trying to do. So yes.
Actually, what you said was, you're going to tear me a new asshole, didn't you?
I don't recall that. So that's putting words in my mouth.
I'm not asking you to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you if you remember saying that during that phone call. Oh,
I don't
I know
recall.
you're going to tear me a new asshole.
I don't recall.
Okay. But you do remember saying something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard of something called the blue wall of silence?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you think it's
Oh, yeah, this is good. It's a good ending.
important for police officers to protect one another in the field and out?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you spoken with anyone, not Mr. Brennan, he's covered that, spoken with anyone from the district attorney's office about your involvement in this case? Ever?
No.
Never?
Unless you're going to provide a person. I've never talked to any of these people.
Have you talked to anyone at the DA's office at all in any regard?
Not to my recollection.
How about indirectly?
Not to my knowledge.
Are you friends with any people that you're aware of that are connected to this case? Are you personal friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, personal friends with anyone that's connected with this case?
Other people who's been on the witness stand. One person. Yes.
Who's that?
Sarah Levinson.
How long have you known Sarah?
We became friends in middle school.
Did you watch any of this trial?
Clips in passing, but no, it's 6 hours a day. So
None of that is good. BFF with Levinson and watching the trial, but she's a defense witness. So the sequestration stuff, if she violated it, nothing they can do about it, nothing they're going to do to help that. Brennan brings that up. Like, you're a defense witness, basically. Did they not tell you not to watch the trial? So Brennan gets up again and basically says, defense wanted you to repeat a lie. Yes. It would have been easier to lie. She said yes. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And Jackson said, did you just say that what you say on the stand, your job is on the line? You're implicating two officers, weirdly being somewhere for a wildly long time. And I thought it was a great ending to the redirect to push what they are trying to explain happened here. All right, let's go rapid fire on some questions before we get to Dr. Russell. Before you head out, can you run a quick poll on what everyone thinks the jury's verdict will be, guilty, not guilty, mistrial? So I don't do this until after the close of evidence. So I think we may have done it after the Commonwealth's case. Did they prove it? We're going to wait until after the defense's case. I keep reading there was no dog DNA. If true, why would defense be going that route? Did they test the right areas? Did they test it appropriately? We're going to wait and hear the explanation for that. I heard there was a missing witness instruction being requested. Can you explain? So there's a bunch of different reasons you would do this, and I don't know what the defense is arguing. I haven't read the motion. It could be Proctor, potentially. It could be somebody's actually missing. So I want to wait and hear what the actual reason for it is. Completely unrelated today, but is the actual witness testimony contents qualify for discovery or only witness reports communication? It depends on your state's rules. If they give depositions, that's part of discovery. Do you think the defense expected him to bring in the text or baited him, or do you think it throws them off? I don't know what they expected. I definitely don't think they were baiting him. I think they want to bring it in the way they want to bring it in. They've thought about this a lot, obviously. I may have missed something, but why was it Brennan doing it? Isn't a defense witness? Yes, but they went up to sidebar, came back, and he started reading it because the witness was like, I'm uncomfortable. These aren't my words. I don't want to read these horrible words. Maybe the defense will still call Proctor. Evidence of the thick blue line, Dever covering for cops, Proctor, nope, he's a Boston cop too. I agree with you that the door is still open calling Proctor. I really do. Jessica, Peter, what does the motion filed by the defense missing witness argument mean? They filed a few. It could mean that they want to be able to argue a negative inference for any witness the Commonwealth did not call that was available. I have to look at what the rules are in Massachusetts before I dive too much into that. How much does it benefit the defense now that Devers told the jury she called the FBI? Now that the door has technically been opened, can ARCA clarify who hired them? Previous trial, thanks, Pete. No, not unless the judge says so. And her saying she called the FBI to check to see if she committed perjury is not the same thing as the FBI is actually the one investigating this case. So I could see how the Commonwealth may argue against that. If I was the judge, I'd be like, we gotta explain more about the FBI now. What does that mean? Both sides are not going to agree. In the past, you've mentioned that most judges are easy on the state. Doesn't seem right to me. Should the defense also see the defendant as innocent? Absolutely. Presumption of innocence goes to the judge too. Why didn't the defense actually talk about and make him read the text? I think, Rebecca, they have another plan for that. I'm not positive, but I think. Defense filed a motion to reconsider Easter. That's awesome. Love to hear your thoughts. I have not read it. I spit on the mic. I have not read it, but I think that's great. I hope they win. I don't think they will. Why didn't the defendant ask about the texts? It's part of their strategy is the only thing I can say. What was Yannetti trying to accomplish with this witness? Why allow the Commonwealth to read? I think he was trying to get those texts into evidence, which he did, and they can use them through either another witness, closing argument. I think it's all part of the plan, but I don't know. Barclay, sorry if I missed it, but why didn't the defense go through Proctor's text with the friend? Why did they leave the Commonwealth to bring them out? I think it's all part of their strategy and plan. Why did the lawyers still have to call them a separate law enforcement after she mentioned the FBI? Because sometimes when a door is inadvertently opened by your own witness, right? It's really important that this is a defense witness. You can't call a witness to open the door you want to open and then run through it. So the judge is like, no, it was inadvertent. We're not going to let it go. This happened in a ton of my trials where somebody slips, says something. You would think it opens the door. Judge is like, no. It was inadvertent. It was your witness. We're not going to have a whole separate trial within a trial. Defense had a good day because these cops can't say yes or no. Why didn't they ask her to stop saying in the last trial it was painful? I agree. And you all are noticing it and cringing it. Even Brennan starts saying it with Dr. Russell. And then he finally stops. Was Dever called in hopes of giving the impression that she was intimidated by the police commissioner? Maybe. You tell me what you got from her. If I'm a juror, I don't expect her to do a good job because the defense called her. They can call people to make them look dumb. No, sure, they can. Don't you think the texts show Michael Proctor decided Camry was guilty without investigating bias? 100%. The texts are great for the defense. Bowden, why do you think Dever hurt the defense? Shady cop clearly lied to the FBI to cover for other cops. I think the jury could look at this cop and say the defense wants her to lie. The cops, the FBI, all these people don't think she's lying. They think what she's doing is fine. The timeline the defense provided proves that she was wrong in her initial statement, but they want her to get up here and say what's good for them. They want smoke and mirrors. They want to distract us. They want to trick us. When you can have a witness actually say that and not just the other lawyer, and you can have a defense witness say that, I think that's problematic for the defense. I could be wrong. Maybe the jury didn't care at all. Why would she have said that to begin with? I have no clue. Actually, you want to know my actual reason? She said it because she saw it. Maybe she was off on the timeline, but I think she saw it. Jimmy Hughes checking in. Please shout out my girlfriend, Amanda, who is new. Oh, hello, Amanda. Everyone make sure to like this video. Maybe they're showing all these lay witnesses lied to the FBI. So what makes you think they wouldn't lie to you? It's a good point. Peter, given the horrendous investigation, the defense doesn't have to prove conspiracy. I agree, which makes the witness like Devers good for the defense. Okay. I definitely think she said some things that were good for the defense, obviously. And maybe after Hank's cross, disaster was too strong because we didn't get to hear Jackson come back with his redirect yet. Is it true that a hoax is factually phony? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. She's a young person with a little job experience. I don't think people put much weight on her testimony. So what difference does it make? I would only be guessing. Why is Devers' statement regarding AJ saying lie and stand in charge plus perjury any different than Welcher saying he was told Brennan to change the PowerPoint? Not saying either is true, but aren't situations the same? It depends on the context and whether or not the jury thinks what the witness says is true. Could AJ have asked her if her memory of the threat of perjury was also a false memory, just like the security video? Maybe. I can't believe the defense didn't at least make the friend read the text, use the actual words. How certain are you they won't call Proctor? I'm not certain at all of anything in this trial. I am not certain. Azam, Peter, do you think the defense regrets calling her? I don't know. Usually as a lawyer, you really shouldn't have any regrets. How are we going to go forward? What is the next best step we can take? That's how you have to go forward. Does the defense only have to present witnesses that would side with them? Absolutely not. Usually you want to call witnesses that are good for you, though. Do you think the defense wanted the text entered into evidence to use them in closing for recalling them to impeach later? Potentially. M, has she officially opened the door on the FBI? Congratulations on $500K. Thank you. No, I don't think she has, according to the judge, who is the most important person to make this decision. Okay, let's get into Dr. Russell. Crazy education experience, by far the best education experience of anybody in this trial to answer the questions before this jury. Was this a dog injury or was this a car accident injury? They focused a lot on dogs, but I'm so glad they focused a lot on car accident injuries as well. And she answers that here. What do you expect to see with car accident injuries? We finally got a witness to tell us from a medical standpoint.
And that can help you determine if they were struck by a car.
In terms of motor vehicle accidents and patterns, can you give an example of some of the patterns you would expect to see in someone and that you have seen in someone that is struck by a motor vehicle?
Oftentimes lower extremity fractures, for instance. Lower extremity bruises and fractures are commonplace for someone who was struck by a car.
And in your
Glad she changed it to not just fractures, but bruises and fractures, knowing what we're going to see later. That was important.
practice as an emergency medicine physician, a rough approximation of how many lower extremity injuries you have examined and evaluated with regard to motor vehicle accidents, including in the Los Angeles area?
Oh, I think probably hundreds.
Alrighty, so now let's continue with the topic that
So hundreds of car accidents, lower extremity fractures and bruises. She also explains how the arm injury is consistent with defensive wounds, explains dog dentition. They go into a lot of background. She talks about how she was involved in the case, which is going to take all the sting out of Brennan's cross-examination of her about wanting to get involved. She saw a Boston Globe article. Frankly, I thought Brennan went into certain things that would be even better for the defense than how the defense talked about how she got involved in this case. She reached out to the defense, talks about differential diagnosis and the materials that she considered, and then we get to her opinion.
Continue, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience, Dr. Russell. We had broke up where you had described the materials that you had reviewed. Based on your, and Mr. Wolk, if we could please put the exhibit that we just had, and with Your Honor's permission, republish it. Thank you. Based on your review of all the materials that you had described and your experience that you had described, without stating it, were you able to come to any conclusions or opinions about the source and nature of the injuries that you see depicted on that exhibit?
Yes,
And what is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
those wounds were inflicted as a result of a dog attack.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
They were inflicted as a result of a dog attack.
I feel like the defense attorneys a couple times have said that when it's something really good for them. It's like, I'm sorry, I was having trouble hearing you. Could you say that again a little louder? Mo said, still convinced it's one big social experience. It can't be real life. I sure hope not for the people of the Commonwealth, because they've spent over $1 million on all of this.
And how did you form that opinion? Just describe your thought process to the jury.
Well, there are multiple groupings of wounds.
Do you have the pointer?
I do.
And if you could use the screen that Her Honor has requested.
So there are multiple groupings of wounds right here. Here's one on the what I'll consider the upper arm, which is above the elbow. Here's another grouping. Here's an interesting, complex grouping at the elbow. These are all the posterior surface of the arm. And there's another grouping down here on the forearm. These multiple groupings are patterns. And they are, in my opinion, were inflicted by the teeth and claws of a dog.
We've discussed.
I mean, with her experience, her education, how she explains it to me is the most logical understanding and reason for this. And common sense tells you that's what it's looked like. And they weren't allowed to get into the car accident stuff. They weren't allowed to go in nearly as deep with Dr. Russell last trial as they were today. And to be able to do that and let her compare and contrast dog bite with car accident and what this looks like and what she believes this is and how certain of it she is, this was a home run witness for the defense, in my opinion. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Again, feel free to disagree if you disagree with it, and tell me why. What was bad about her testimony? And again, we haven't gone through the entirety of cross, but just direct in what you've heard so far. How could this have been any better? She explains it. She points it out. She gives foundation first, then shows exactly why this is more consistent with a dog bite than a car accident.
Previously, pattern recognition skills and methodology, and you just mentioned the word pattern here. Can you elaborate on what you mean by pattern with regard to this exhibit?
So there are groupings, and one can see that these wounds are going essentially in the same direction. They are oriented in the same way on the almost from the inner, close to the inner surface of the arm or the anterior surface towards the posterior surface.
What is
of the
the
arm.
significance, if any, of that?
Stephen, I agree with you. I agree with you. Listen, in no way did Dever create a situation where I think, oh yeah, the Commonwealth has done a great job and proved Karen Reed's guilty. No way did that make him come at all. I just am thinking, if you are the defense and you get to choose what witnesses you're calling, I just would have chosen not to call her. I really just would not have. Joanne, why do you think the defense called her? She's making them look bad. I think they wanted to get into the fact that Higgins and Berkowitz were by the car, and she remembers that. I do. Allie said, asking this again, trying to get an answer from Peter. Is the point of the witness that the defense presents to support their argument or be on their side? Yes, that is the point. They absolutely should do that, but they're not required to, right? You can call a witness that may be risky or even bad for you.
That orientation you just described.
So what that gives me direction, and that tells me that the dog's teeth were over here. Over here. The dog is over on this side of the arm, and
all right, we're going to hear more about that. She also said after lunch that she has treated a bunch of dog bite injuries where somebody comes in and says, I got bit by a dog. And that's important because she knows it's a dog bite injury while she's treating it. She's not guessing or projecting or even opining that it is a dog injury. And she can compare those that she knows to be dog injuries with this. And I thought that was incredibly important and really well done. Now she's going to talk about some civilian dog bites. I mean, they really were able to dig into her expertise, all the background, all the articles she read and relied on, and how she came to the conclusion this was dog bite, and compare it with car accident.
Plus, most of the non-law enforcement dog bites, the patients or the mother have said, this, a dog bit me, or a dog bit my son.
And for those where someone said something, the dog bit my son, were the wounds that you saw similar to or different from the wounds that are depicted in Exhibit 1 that we've had up on the screen?
On the civilian dog bites, there's some similarities, but not as many striations on the civilian dog bites.
And are the more striations on what's depicted in Exhibit 1, does that lead you to more easily conclude it's from a dog bite, or is it harder for you to conclude it's from a dog bite?
Neither.
So is your prior experience as an emergency room physician, as a physician in Cochrane, does that experience allow you to exercise pattern recognition skills with regard to Exhibit 1 in Exhibit 157?
Sustain.
Michelle said, friend of mine was testified in a trial, defense lawyer instructed him to lie. It happens. There are bad, scummy lawyers. It absolutely happens. And who knows if somebody on the jury knows a lawyer like that and they think, yeah, that's true. And I agree with Ashley. If Dever would have been more respectful, I think it would have looked even worse for the defense. But you're right. Absolutely looks sketchy. She couldn't have looked more biased against the defense.
Do you use your pattern recognition? Did you use your pattern recognition skills in evaluating Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 157?
Yes.
In terms of character,
the defense highlighting that she is doing this pattern recognition to compare and contrast what the Commonwealth's going to bring on rebuttal with their experts.
Characteristics of dog bites. If we can go back to Exhibit 1, please. Is Exhibit 1 highly characteristic of a dog bite or lowly characteristic of a dog bite?
Sustain.
How would you describe the characteristics of what appears on Exhibit 1?
What I see on Exhibit 1 is multiple strikes from a dog.
I'm going to allow it.
Can you please?
We get into some semantics about multiple strikes from a dog, attack, bites, scratches, etc. So, there is that. The judge eventually, after some back and forth, allows her to say these are highly likely from a dog attack. The judge strikes the word attack, but leaves in the rest of the opinion. She talks about how the witness could be moving, arm could be bent, it could be straight, could be pulling away, obviously. She said these are incomplete dog bites. They didn't penetrate the skin fully. They're surface level scratches. Majority of civilian dog bites are incomplete bites. I think Brennan is really going to hammer on that. And did that change from the first trial from her prior testimony? I think that's going to be something that's going to be a big part of his cross. So we got to wait and kind of see how he attacks that. But that also is consistent with a lot of the other testimony as well. She says these dog bites happened before John O'Keefe passed, which I also think is important with the defense's theory. Differential diagnosis of a motor vehicle accident after another sidebar. Here is the conversation about that. And I was a little disappointed with how little they were able to get into it because I think this is a really important point. But it seems like Judge Cannoni limited what they could get into, but he was at least allowed to ask this question.
Thank you for your patience, Dr. Russell. Is what the wounds you see on Exhibit 1 consistent or inconsistent with what you have seen from your experience with regard to motor vehicle accident victims?
Inconsistent.
So that was pretty much it at that point after that sidebar, that this is inconsistent with the injuries she sees in a motor vehicle accident. But then, as I said on X, they decide to go to Dr. Welcher's test case. And we knew this was going to come back to bite the Commonwealth. And they get into the difference is with those injuries and what we all see with our own eyes and ears and common sense on John O'Keefe.
The limbs of Mr. Wolk, thank you.
So there is a very extensive degloving, partially degloving, avulsion injury to the forearm of this individual, the extensive skin loss, damage to the subcutaneous tissue, possibly damage to other tissues beneath that.
And Mr. Wolk, if you could zoom back out and go to the list that is highlighted in the original of this. And Dr. Russell, can you tell me whether you evaluated the list, and if so, how?
Michelle, I get what you're saying about they have to believe in, they're kind of all in. I don't know. I think reasonable doubt is still the best argument. That's just kind of the position I'm in. Maybe I'm too entrenched in that.
Did you evaluate that list in connection with the photo?
Well, the photo is limited only really to the upper chest and the right arm. And so I can't comment on any of the CAT scan findings here on this list. But this was a list of numerous traumatic injuries to this person. And regarding the arm, it says right upper extremity wound with vascular injury, clinical.
What does that mean, if anything, to you?
Well, that suggests it's a soft tissue wound. However, what they're saying is clinical, so they're not commenting on if there were any X-ray findings, for instance. On an X-ray, but I mean, would be a post-mortem X-ray, and this is just a clinical diagnosis or a visual hands-on diagnosis.
Do you know whether that line that you just read relates to any part of the photograph? Any part of the photograph?
Oh, I believe it relates to that injury that we pointed out in the previous photograph.
Can you switch back to that, please, Mr. Wolk? And if you could just zoom in and just what does.
So this is the wound that they are talking about. It's a large gaping wound, soft tissue wound.
If we could go back to the list, please. Zoom in.
It's like, yeah, you don't have to be a doctor to see how different those injuries are and how different those wounds are. You do not have to be a doctor for that. But we have a doctor here with all this experience and a former cop. Let her explain it to you.
Thank you.
But
please continue.
No, what I was going to say is that there are multiple other injuries in this person. Multiple serious, significant injuries, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, intraventricular hemorrhage, liver laceration, hemopneumothorax. That's blood and air in the chest cavity outside of the lungs. So,
I mean, those are serious internal injuries. This is what you'd expect to see when you get hit by a car. It's exactly what we said when that list showed up on the screen. And I was like, what are they doing? And now you have the perfect expert to explain the difference and why it's important and what it means medically.
It's in an area where it shouldn't be. This person had numerous injuries.
Are you able to compare these injuries in that photo in this Exhibit 206? And did you compare them to your review of the autopsy report and other medical records of Mr. O'Keefe?
Answer the question? Oh, okay.
You can take that down. From your review, did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any liver laceration?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any gaping, as you called it, lacerations to the right forearm?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any pneumothorax injuries that you were describing with regard to 206?
No hemopneumothorax.
Really good job by Alessi pivoting where the judge didn't let him ask the simple question. So he just went down and said very clearly he's reading all these injuries. Did O'Keefe get any of those? No. All right. That's all I'm going to play from direct. The holes in the clothing she thought came from a canine tooth. Evaluated clothing of MVA victims. Basically, this didn't look like that. Goes through the studies, how they relate to her testimony. These injuries, she's basically very sure that they are from a dog bite and or claw marks to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. And then we get to cross, but before we get to cross, let's hit some questions. Do you think AJ and co were surprised Hank Brennan read the texts? Maybe. Not after sidebar, but that he was actually going to go through them? Maybe. Should the mention of the FBI have opened the door? I think it should. I think they need to talk more about it now. I don't think Judge Cannone is going to do that. Valerie, hold on. Could the lawyers for Karen Reed have gotten a search warrant to see her time card to see if she actually got off work at 3:45 that day. Not a search warrant, but they potentially could have gotten that information. I don't know how exactly it exists. Could the false memory she created be used to undermine her credibility in other trials where she's arresting officer, for example? Potentially you can impeach her with that. Like, you've created false memories in the past, haven't you? Absolutely. Thought they weren't allowed to mention the first trial. They're really not supposed to. And Brennan really does here on cross, but I think the judge cools him on it. Wonder why she wasn't identified as a hostile witness. A lot of that can happen at sidebar, and maybe we just didn't see it, but it didn't feel like she was. Maybe Canoni didn't allow it. Why has Hank allowed so many recross? She allowed the defense to do that as well. Why did she make the comment that comment and statement in the first place? Probably because that's what she saw, Rebecca. That's what I'd have to think. Would the defense be able to request the email records for the FBI legal team if Dever was lying or not about the exchange? Potentially to try to impeach her. It might be too much of an ancillary issue, but that would be a discovery argument they'd have to have if she refused and they had to file a motion to compel. Peter, did you see the camera show the jury today? I did not. How can her first account be so detailed and false? Feels like a rhetorical question. Struggling with the no comments to defense, but not Hank Brennan. I get it. And that's an important thing to witness credibility. Why didn't Jackson ask Dever if she's ever came into work the following day and or saw Higgins in the Sallyport on those days or saw the videos of them? I don't know the answer. I don't know what the answer to this question would have been. Maybe I'm assuming Jackson didn't think it was important. So the officer didn't witness something because of time. She was blinded by time and therefore didn't see the duo on the Sallyport carrying car. That's a great point. Were you just wrong about the car, or you think you just didn't see him at all and you created the whole thing? Or just wrong about the time? Did I say time? A case of rock and a hard place for her. My boss says do the right thing. I'm hearing do what I want you to do or your job will be a living hell. It's a good point. Is this setting foundation for testimony to come? Potentially. Judy, the jury may have believed Dever until they see another combative cop give guarded answers and a crazy specific statement. They keep piling up. I agree with you. In 2023, her salary went up from 84 after the meeting, 143. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. Can the defense still get Proctor to read his text? Absolutely. Absolutely. Peter, why did the Commonwealth read those messages confused? I think they want to take the sting out of them. They wanted to include more messages so it wasn't as obvious and highlighted. Why did Hank Brennan go last with Dever if she was a defense witness? Why was Hank Brennan allowed to say C word as opposed to reading the actual word? Two things. She let Jackson do that multiple times, meaning Canoni. And number two, she made Jackson or Proctor say it because it was his text and his words. I don't know what was said at sidebar. That's what's really hard about trying to determine why a judge did certain things, because I don't know what the arguments that were made at sidebar. Why wasn't Dever considered a hostile witness? I don't know if the defense even asked. Maybe I missed it, but in what context would she report the unusual behavior in the Sallyport? What is the origin of the statement? I don't remember why. Just because she thought it was weird and wildly unusual or wildly long time? Peter, how does the testimony of Dever look to you? Bad for the defense, bad for the Commonwealth, bad for everybody, but I don't think the defense scored enough points with her to call her, especially this early. Did she come across as believable in every way given her hostility? No, she did not. But a negative for everybody is not a witness I want to call usually. All right, let's listen to some of this cross. So you brought this info to the district attorney. You've never testified as a dog bite expert before, he starts out cross with. And he says, were you aware of a connection with that DA's office and this defense team? To me, that opens the door. And if I'm Alessi, I'm going to say, Attorney Jackson was a DA for 20 years or however many years he was, wasn't he? He was a prosecutor, right? The defense or the prosecutor opened the door. I would absolutely say that. Make sure that jury knows this guy sitting right there was a prosecutor for a very, very long time. He's not some slimy career defense lawyer, right? Like the prosecutors are trying to paint in this case. Hank Brennan's a defense lawyer too. Can't say that part. But I think that door has been opened. All right, let's listen to a little bit of it.
Involved in this high-profile case, didn't you?
No.
Well, you weren't called by anybody on the defense and retained as an expert in the traditional sense, were you?
That's correct.
It was after you reached out yourself and interjected yourself into this case, true?
I did so for a reason. And the reason being that I knew I was the
This was a big point of the cross in the first case and of the voir dire, which, by the way, people wondering, is he going to try to be nicer? He's absolutely trying, but we'll see how it ends up happening, Frank Brennan. He's trying to be nicer with this witness because I think he's probably reading the comments online like, it's not going to go well if you really go hard at this witness. She's not combative. She's not a jerk.
one of the only people in the United States, board certified and residency trained in emergency medicine and also residency trained in forensic pathology. And therefore I had a unique skill or knowledge set. And I was one of the very few people that had the knowledge of dog bites, as well as those other trainings.
And because of the fact that you held this opinion about yourself, you wanted to get involved in this very high profile case, didn't you?
I thought I could help clarify the issues as to whether or not this could be a dog bite, and maybe they can move on to something else if it wasn't.
Did you want to get involved?
No, not really.
Inevitably, you got hired.
Interesting. She says, no, she didn't really want to get involved. I mean, I don't think you'd send anything if you didn't want to at least, or if you weren't open to getting involved. I'll just say that. By the way, we're in way major overtime. We probably have about 10, 15 minutes left of actual content, but stick to the end if you're interested at all in Lawyer You Know merch. Just stick to the end. We're going to talk for just 1 second about that.
Hired by the defense, didn't you?
Yes, I reluctantly agreed.
And they paid for your time?
They are paying for the time.
Did you know that there was a relationship
This is not a shocking number, or he would have said it.
between the district attorney you spoke to in California and somebody on this defense table?
I know, yes.
So when you spoke,
He asked about it multiple times. Very clear, unless he can get into that. And I would say it. I would say he was a district attorney prosecuting cases for 20 years or whatever. That adds credibility. And jurors usually don't know a lawyer's background. But Brennan made it an issue.
to the district attorney, did you have the hope that they would reach out on your behalf to get you involved in this case?
As I said, I hoped that they could reach out to the team and I could help clarify issues so that they could move on. If these weren't dog bites, then no sense spending a whole bunch of time on it.
After you testified in this case last year, you then began to advertise yourself as a dog bite expert, didn't you?
I had
So what did you guys think of this line of questioning? Before I even give my opinion, what did you think about this line of questioning where he made it seem like she was trying to use this to spin it into or parlay it into becoming this dog bite expert, and she's really wants to do this for money, and look at how slimy she is. Basically, that's what he's trying to paint here. She's trying to spin this into a career in testifying as a dog bite expert. Did this land for you? Let me know, and then I'll tell you what I think.
advertised myself many years ago as a dog bite expert. I think I'm not sure, but yes, I did advertise myself as a emergency medicine and forensic pathology expert.
Did you take
with other sub interests.
Sure. Did you take a photograph of you testifying at trial and put it on a website to promote your accomplishments?
It's a listing service for physicians, and yes, there is a photograph.
So you took a photograph from your participation in this event,
Yes, that's there.
and you used that photograph in your participation at this event to try to procure future work, didn't you?
I wouldn't say that was the reason. No.
When you listed a number of things that you have experience in after this case, you then added that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
I believe I am an expert in dog bites. Yes.
But after this case, and after you took the photograph in this case, and after you created this advertising, you then added the fact that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
It was all at the same time, and it was submitted at the same time.
Right. After this case, after you participated
Well-
and volunteered to involve yourself in this case, you then used it as a marketing opportunity, didn't you?
Well, I had retired from my full-time job, and I had time, and I wanted to get more involved in some forensic legal cases, and not specifically dog bite cases. I have much more experience with other cases.
Undoubtedly. I respect that, but simply,
Undoubtedly, I respect that. So you can tell, no matter what he said about her in the voir dire, no matter what arguments he made, what questions he made, he knows she is a real and legitimate witness, number one. So I see most of you think it was not a big deal. Most of you think that he even sounded mean asking her these questions. To me, it was a complete nothing burger, since both of these teams are going to call professional experts and professional witnesses who advertise and get paid. And this is all they do. They sponsor events. So what? she's now advertising as an expert witness. I don't see that as a big deal at all, personally. Then he goes through articles on dog bites are from the 90s, like her experience is old. She's not a real expert on dog bites, maybe some other things. Some weird exchange about Dr. La Posada. Did she see something? Did she not? He asked her if a dog trainer could be an expert. She says maybe, but a medical doctor would be better. He specifically says you testified at the last trial, and I was just like, oh. Then we get into some comparisons between her and Dr. Scorty Bello.
Area, right arm and forearm.
Yes.
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scortabello?
Yes.
Did you accept her finding and
Yes.
observation? And
Yes.
you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp. I
Okay.
apologize.
Yes.
Observation?
Okay, so this was the part I want to highlight. He responds and snaps at her, right? And she's just being nice. And listen, we just heard from Dever, right? We've seen Judson Welcher. We see a witness who wants to battle. That is not Dr. Russell. She just wants to testify. She wants to answer the question, talk about her experience. He snaps at her and he says, I apologize for being sharp. Now, was that a good move or bad move? It's polite to apologize when you do something wrong, but do you want to highlight from the jury that you know you were being sharp and you have absolutely been sharp with other witnesses?
And
Yes.
you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp. I
Okay.
apologize. Did you rely on her ability and firsthand observation of those wounds?
Did you notice how he got much softer after that? Did you rely on this? Much softer, much softer. Peter, does the time missing in the video footage correlate with Dever's false memory? Nobody asked about it. I just think that's like a bunch of steps, and she would just say, I don't know. I don't think it does based on the timestamps of the video, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And did you appreciate or accept the fact she had a superior opportunity to evaluate those wounds firsthand that you did not have the benefit of?
She made no interpretation of those ones.
Did you know that Dr. Scortabello had described them as superficial?
They are
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand, doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I-
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Go ahead. The witness see the report that he keeps referring to.
So that's a great point, Alessi, because guess what? He's not referring to her report anymore. Sure sounded like he was. This was a bit of a sneaky move, right? This was a sneaky move. To say something, and then he's like, he comes back. I think we're going to hear it. Maybe not. But he comes back after sidebar and he's like, well, I read the measurements from her report and then I started telling you about her testimony or whatever. It was not great. Not great.
Can you answer that question without saying it, or do you need to see it?
Well, I remember it, but I there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you
Like,
accept that
you're not getting me here. I'm not getting got.
Dr. Scortabello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the recording?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about
Now he's like, well, maybe it's not in there. And you see her little smirk. She's like, that's what I
the
thought.
testimony, anything that she's ever said. Would you agree or accept her position that there is no puncture or depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Like all the questions that were about an autopsy. Sorry.
Okay.
Unless he forgot about the no making any speaking objections part. Then he goes through, your opinion is very, very different than it was before. You said X, Y, and Z before. You had some uncertainty the first trial, didn't you? All of those types of questions he gets into with Dr. Russell here at near the end of her testimony. Let's take a listen.
For review and revisions, didn't you?
In terms of organization,
And some of the language in this report is really not your language. It's the language of somebody who helped you write some of this, isn't it?
you know, if somebody helped me write it, it would have been much better written than that.
Didn't you agree that you had some assistance with the report? Haven't you testified to that before?
And no, and in terms of organization, there was some comments though, this sentence belongs, with this paragraph or the, whatever. But in terms of content, that was my work.
Well, it was your report, correct?
It's my report.
And when you write a report, it's your words, not somebody else's. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
But nevertheless, you had somebody assisting you. True?
In terms of organization, yes.
Who was helping you with the report?
It was somebody from the law office.
Well, it was this gentleman right here, Attorney Alisi, who just asked you questions. He helped you,
No,
didn't he?
actually, it wasn't.
Was it from his law firm?
Nice try, but no, it was somebody else.
That somebody helped you?
I believe so, but it was in terms of organization.
Do you remember who was helping you with your report?
I don't remember her name.
Would you agree that after that report was written, many of
Michelle, I 100% agree that reasonable doubt and cover up are not mutually exclusive. 100% agree with that.
your opinions changed?
No,
In your report, you provide your background. Yes?
yes,
And you've been licensed to practice medicine since 1988
yes,
as a physician?
yes.
And you've been licensed to practice medicine as a surgeon?
It's called, in California, it's called physician and surgeon license.
Do you have a physician and
And
surgeon?
I couldn't tell if Hank Brennan actually knew what he was doing here or he didn't know what he was doing here, trying to talk about, whether she does surgeries or not. But I think so. Hank Brennan has done a really good job on some crosses. I think the cross so far of Dr. Russell has fallen completely flat. I thought his cross of Dever was really good. I thought his cross of Dr. Russell has been almost worthless, like almost a completely nothing burger, which is partially because Alessi took out a lot of the sting. I think he could have made her sound more invested and biased in this and really wanted to be part of it. But I don't think it's been good so far. Carsto, after swearing to tell the truth, isn't saying I don't recall when pretty sure you do. Perjury seems like an easy way to avoid the truth. I mean, I get what you're saying, but again, that would not qualify as perjury that anybody would want to prosecute. What if she saw them in the Sally Port before the car got there? Why didn't they bring that up? That's a good point. Salty, crazy thought. Wouldn't they find more bruises after the body has been buried? What are protocols for exhuming? I don't know the answer to that. Karen, was Dever actually saying she never actually, you'd have an expert that would explain what you'd expect to see and not see from this much time before exhumation. I don't even know if that's a word. Was Dever actually saying she never saw them go into the Sally Port or that the timing is not what she originally thought? She said the defense providing the timeline showed her that what she said could not have been true. Surprised to see Hank Brennan try to soften his tone with Dr. Russell. Are you? And even when he came across as sharp, Dr. Russell's responses were even and confident. She also comes across a little grandmothery, which I find so endearing. I agree. You have to be careful with witnesses like Dr. Isaac Wolf and Dr. Russell. Wouldn't it help to show examples of dog bite? I think it would. I don't know if Judge Cannoni's allowing them to do that or not. Do you think the defense knew what they were doing and called Devers to show how stories are evolving? AJ said he knows the answers to his questions. That's a good point. I assume they knew what they were calling her for. To me, I don't think it was great. Hey, Peter, I'm confused why the defense brought in the text message that way. I agree. I was confused as well. It seemed really ineffective testimony this way. Is there a hidden strategy? I hope so, and I think so. I assume they're going to have a way to really make these hit home because it's such good evidence. Collusion can't prove a collision. Even though you now have 500,000 subscribers, it's crazy to say every time. I hope to still hear you sing, "Look at me, I'm Sandra D." Every so often. Congrats, Peter. Your unbiased and fair analysis is much appreciated and enjoyed by so many. Thank you. Thank you. I have a really horrible take that may make people unfollow me, and I understand if you do. And it's actually not even true, okay? I don't think that it's a better soundtrack, but I think Grease 2's soundtrack is very, very close to Grease 1. Grease 1 is like one of the best soundtracks of all time, so I can't really say Grease 2's is better, but man, do I love Grease 2's soundtrack. All right, let's get back to this cross.
Surgeon's license?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever practiced as a surgeon?
Well, in the emergency department, we do surgery. We have to do some surgery sometimes. We have to open up people's chests and compress the heart sometimes when they have gunshot wounds to the chest. I've had to put chest tubes in. I've had to debride dog bite wounds and other wounds. So yes, there is a component
Every time she talks about her experience and education, it just adds to her credibility.
of surgery.
If you do stitches, that's considered surgery, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, medically speaking, stitches is surgery.
This may be laying the foundation for some of his witnesses to try to beef them up because he's tried to give some credit to his witnesses and discredit some future defense witnesses with some of the really skilled witnesses. Each side has tried to do that to compare and contrast.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Do you have a surgeon's license?
I have a physician and surgeon's license in California.
Now, when you first looked at this case and testified, do you remember when you were looking at Mr. O'Keefe's superficial wounds, you said that you thought they appeared to be consistent with an animal attack?
I do remember that.
And when you were describing animal attack, you were a lot less specific than you were today, weren't you?
Yes.
You were less sure about your opinion when you first testified about this case than you provided to this jury today?
I was certain that it was a dog attack. However,
And she says this over and over again. And Brennan is trying to get some points like, you were less specific. Fine. And that's a good point for the Commonwealth. I understand why he's going there on cross. As lawyers, we got to pick and choose. What are we going to cross them on? What are we going to hit? But every time he asked her about this, we're going to watch about 2 minutes of it. Every time he asked her about this, she was able to say just how certain she is this was from a dog attack. Kelly said, if I'm a juror, there's no way I'd be able to refrain from doing my own research. I understand, and that scares me as a lawyer. Maybe they want, I mean, you shouldn't want them to, you shouldn't tell them to, but which side do you think thinks it would benefit them if the jury started doing their own research?
as I mentioned before to you, in medicine, we're taught never, nothing is 100%, and therefore never say, anything's 100%. So that's why I gave that that generalization. However, I have reviewed the case. I personally was certain that that was a dog, that those were dog marks. Now, I have reviewed this case over and over and over again. Plus, I've read additional articles more than once, and which substantiate again my findings. So, so my degree of certainty perhaps increased.
So when you
She's like, you know what, Mr. Brennan, you got me. I was sure trial won, but my degree of certainty has gotten better. It has just increased. It's like, it doesn't help you, Brennan. I get what you're trying to do, trying to tell the jury she's really invested in this case, has to do well, and that's why she's saying she's even more certain this time than she was the first time, but really it's just her testimony changing. I don't think it came across like that personally. You guys let me know if you disagree. Crystal, I remember it coming out. I think the former police officer thing is a big deal, and Massachusetts tie is a big deal. I agree with you.
first testified in this case back in June of 2022, are you agreeing that your testimony was less certain than today?
I believed that it was a dog attack at that time.
When you testified, you didn't say dog attack, you said animal attack at the beginning, didn't you?
Yes.
And when you were asked about the cause, you said that it could be bite
Be like, yeah, dog is an animal.
or scratch wounds.
Correct.
So back in June, when you were looking at individual wounds, you, at that time anyways, were unable to differentiate between bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I thought he was going to say bite and bit. Did anybody else think he was going to say bite and bit? Cool Rider. Oh my goodness. Cool Rider is such a smash. Who's that guy? We're going to score tonight. Let's do it for our country. Reproduction. So many good songs on the Grease 2 soundtrack. Take a minute, relax, decompress from the trial later, and put on Grease 2 soundtrack. It's so good. It's so good. I did not discuss these motions in detail. I haven't read them. If we ever get some time, maybe we will read them. My AC is working, by the way. I'm not sweating, so thank you, Jesus. It worked. Sucking all the water out of the pan and the drain line and everything. It worked. It worked.
I understand, but
Out to Ben, my AC guy.
today you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the evolution. I'm asking a question.
I'm asking a question. Yeah, but you keep saying your testimony evolved. Your testimony has changed. Let's talk about the evolution of your testimony and how it keeps changing. He's definitely trying to slip that into his question.
Bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I understand, but today you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the evolution. I'm asking a question.
All right. So the argumentative part is out. Ask the question, Mr. Moore.
I want to go back to
Argumentative part is out. So the problem with that is, for the record, what part is out and what part is not? What is the jury supposed to strike? And let's just, that's why the vague way Judge Canoni does everything is just not great for the record. Side note, but that was just kind of annoying.
identify the evolution of your opinions. So let's start at the beginning.
So question, please.
At the beginning, before your opinion evolved, you started with an opinion that this could have been either bite or scratch wounds, right?
Yes.
And if there was actually a methodology
He literally said that today at trial too, so that didn't change.
where you could identify superficial abrasions and make a determination whether it was from an animal or a dog, there would be something definitive, specific, where you could identify a scratch from a bite wound, wouldn't there be?
Not unless there was a piece of tooth in the wound or a piece of nail. There would otherwise not be any specificity.
You talked about patterns when you first testified back in June of last year.
Mhm.
And when you talked about the patterns, again, you had some uncertainty whether those patterns were caused by nails, claws, or could have been caused by teeth. Isn't that fair to say originally that was your position?
Yes, there is some overlap in terms of the appearances. They can appear very similar, and they can be arranged very similar in terms of parallel lines.
In fact, when
That's not good for him. Like, he's asking her questions that she can explain That may have been something vague and the jury had been like, that doesn't really make sense. Oh yeah, now it makes sense. Thank you, Hank Brandon, for clarifying. I really thought it was one of his worst cross-examination. I think it was his worst cross-examination we've seen so far. I think we're only like 4 witnesses in. All right. That's the end of the content portion that we are going to watch today. I'm going to hit a couple questions here. Peter, do you know if they did a CT? By the way, Michelle, no, this is not going on my resume. They should have, especially when there's no conclusive autopsy and it's a criminal case. My POV as a doctor, I don't remember if they did. I know they only x-rayed certain parts. I don't remember what scans they didn't do, but they like took his brain out. So they definitely did an investigation. Given the order so far, when do you think Arca will testify? Maybe last. Maybe last. Can the defense subpoena the FBI agents to testify about the Dever discussion? Unlikely. Unlikely. That's going to be something they do. Michael Shane, do you know why you never see dog bite experts in court? Because you've never seen a prosecutor try to pass off a dog bite as cuts from a taillight. It's a good point. Most of the time they just admit it's a dog bite. Most of the time you know it's the same thing with car accidents. Most of the time we know the car caused an injury. Grease 2 is better than Grease. Now movie, I don't know if Grease 2 touches Grease. Soundtrack, it's closer. Megan, Dever successfully portrayed that the defense pressured her to be dishonest, but she changed her story, which is bizarre. Who do you think, or who would do that unless they have a motivation? Her motivation is her job. Grease 2 equals PTSD. Please, dude, no. Okay. The first jury came back hung. Does that mean they didn't buy the dog bite theory, or if they were hung on manslaughter charge? I mean, so here's the thing. The jury does not have to agree on the reason they don't agree, right? Some jurors can say, I think it's reasonable doubt because of this. Some can say because of that. It doesn't all have to be the same reasonable doubt. Didn't Cannoni limit her to general animal bite scratches instead of just dog in the first trial? I don't know if she limited her or if that's what Dr. Russell said. I can't remember. She worked at USC LA County Hospital, 10 busiest emergency rooms in the U.S. Brennan better put some respect on Dr. Russell's name. I actually think he kind of did, which was interesting for him. I think she wasn't allowed to say it was a dog. Okay, multiple people memorize that or remember that. Could be true. Off topic, sorry, that's okay. Lori Vallow is already trying to throw a wrench. She's so sick that she came in a wheelchair to lay in a speedy trial. Isn't that interesting? The judge will give her a continuance if she wants it. I haven't caught up on that, but that would be interesting. It sounds like something I need to look at. Okay. Thank you guys so much for 500K. Seriously, it's crazy. I can't believe it. We're going to do some kind of celebration. Brian B said, so 15% off the merch store for 500K. I did say that, but I said if it was for the weekend. But you know what, Brian? That's okay. We're not going to do 15%. We're going to do 25%. John, throw it in the chat. The link to the discount, 25% off everything in our entire merch store, which is the biggest discount we ever do. 25% off with this. I think it's like LYK 500K or something. John is going to put it in the chat. So please subscribe if you haven't already. You have to subscribe to use the code. Not really, but you should. Tell your friends to subscribe. It's so cool. I love to see it. It's what keeps me going. It's what just keeps the drive going. I appreciate you guys so much. So grab some merch. We're going to be doing some giveaways as well in the members only live coming up to celebrate 500K anymore. So join the membership if you haven't already. I know a lot of people did. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I love hanging out. Even on days like today where people come at me on Twitter, I get it. I get it. It's okay to disagree. Don't apologize for disagreeing. Let's learn from each other's disagreements. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. John, I don't see it in the chat. I don't know if you already did throw it in. Please throw it in the chat. Pin it in the comments so people can get this discount code. You're the best. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.